Hello everyone, and welcome to Readers Theater Radio. I'm Michael Minks, and I'm here with my co-host Alex Eliades.
Hello everyone.
And we welcome you to our second episode. We're going to be reading more from Warlock's Magic, A Story of Beginnings, Jason's Story by Christopher C. Miller. Every episode, we will be joined by a guest who will read the role of our protagonist, Jason Warlock. Alex and I have read the book, but the guest has not, so they will have every opportunity to pause, comment, and ask questions. We realized that last episode, Alex and I got a little out of hand interjecting our own comments, so this time we're going to do better about that. Our guest for today is Nick.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Hi, Nick. Thanks for joining us. We're really happy that you could be here for the reading of Warlock's Magic, A Story of Beginnings, Jason's Story, Chapter 2. Let's start the show.
Readers Theater Radio.
On our last episode, Jason Warlock watched his father die at the hands of the merciless killer Deathstrike. He grew up training under the tutelage of Noblin. That's also a correction from our last episode. It's not Noblin, it's Noblin, according to Christopher C. Miller. And we are now at the stage where he has reached the Grand Master Koboyoshi, who is going to teach him the ways of the warrior in Chapter 2.
So we'll go ahead and jump straight in. This is Chapter 2, The Test of Courage. Jason and Master Koboyoshi arrive at the oasis. Jason looks around and asks,
Why are we back here? I thought we were going to train.
Patience, young warlock,
replied Master Koboyoshi. He smirks and continues,
for nothing is what it seems.
He walks over to a plant and a tug on a leaf, and the bush slides open to reveal a secret staircase. Jason is stunned and says,
Wait, does that mean?
You are correct, Jason,
said Master Koboyoshi. He places his hand on Jason's shoulder and continues,
It was my granddaughter that you watched that night swimming in the oasis.
Jason blushes and says,
You knew? Oh, I'm so sorry.
It is quite all right. I wasn't always an old man myself. I remember how it is to be young.
Replied Master Koboyoshi. He turns to Jason to face him eye to eye and continues,
But to a more serious matter, if you go down into my dojo, you must commit yourself to the path you have chosen, which means you will remain with me here and train for the next 10 years. Are you prepared for 10 years of hell? like nothing you've already experienced? For my training is grueling, and I cannot go easy on you. Are you sure that this is the path you want?
Jason answers,
Yes, Sensei. Deathstrike must pay for his crime.
Very well. Your journey begins now,
said Master Koboyoshi. Jason and Master Koboyoshi walk down the stairs, and the plant returns to cover the steps. Minutes later, Jason and Master Koboyoshi enter the secret training dojo. Wooden training dummies litter the area. An area of soft dirt lays in the center of the room, and weapons of all shapes and sizes hang on the walls. Mei Koboyoshi stands in the center of the soft dirt training with two swords. Mei, the same vision of loveliness he witnessed swimming in the moonlight not that long ago. Mei stops training and says,
Grandfather, who is this?
This is the one I spoke of,
answered Master Koboyoshi. Mei walks up to Jason and holds out her hand. Mei says,
Hello, I'm Mei.
Jason's nose begins to bleed as he looks down at her breasts and remembers that night as Mei says,
Hello, Earth calling Jason.
Jason snaps out of it and says,
Oh, yes, sorry, I'm Jason Warlock.
Then shall we begin?
asked Mei. Jason says,
Begin? Begin what?
A three-legged race.
said Mei as she crosses her arms and continues.
Training, of course. Where were you expecting to begin?
Master Kobayashi laughs and says,
Please forgive Jason. He's still young and can distract easily.
You okay there, Nick?
I'm trying. I'm struggling here.
What's on your mind? Tell us. What?
So I need to understand this. So he hasn't met May before.
Oh, right. So that we didn't mention that in the recap. No. So in the last chapter, he and some, I think, nomad were walking through the desert to find them, and they happened upon this oasis in the middle of the night. And so Jason saw May bathing naked in the oasis.
Okay.
And it's just been really horny ever since.
So, but this is his first time meeting her.
Yes.
Has he met Master Kobayashi previously before he saw his granddaughter bathing naked?
He met him after he saw her.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
But apparently Kobayashi was like watching Jason. It's like two abstractions of voyeurism.
He was also watching Jason, or does that mean that he was just around the area watching Jason, knowing that Jason was watching?
Yeah, it's a little suspicious that like he was in the same area where his granddaughter was bathing naked.
Maybe he was bathing too, and
oh yeah, he was underwater.
yeah.
He was in the same spot. He was bathing as well, and he saw Jason. He thought Jason was looking at him.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay.
He's still young and can distract easily.
Trading? Oh, of course, trading. Yes, we shall begin trading. 10 years, who knows what terrors that bastard will commit in that time. I wish I could just take him on now,
said Jason. Time passes. Months pass as Jason training with May and Master Kobayashi goes well. Jason learns the way of combat. His skills grow as his mind. May and Jason train as Master Kobayashi walk into the room.
Jason, it is time for a new kind of training,
said Master Kobayashi. Jason asks,
a new kind of training? What kind of training?
Your father was the great champion of the arena, and your mother was named June, correct?
asked Master Kobayashi. Jason asks,
yes. Again, what special training?
Did you realize that your mother was a powerful sorceress?
asked Master Kobayashi. Jason asks,
my mother was a sorceress?
That would be a no, then. Yes, Jason, she was powerful in the ways of magic, and this unique blend of powerful warrior and powerful wielder of magic gave birth to you, said Master Kobayashi. Do you ever feel funny when danger is near?
Yes, I do. Like the day my father died and when the Death Watch beetle attacked me in the desert,
said Jason. Master Kobayashi says,
it is the mixture of your father and mother that gives you this unique ability, a sixth sense of danger, and the new training will help you use that sense in battle, so you will know when and where the attack will come before it arrives. This will give you the advantage against almost anyone or anything you will face.
Almost?
Jason asked. Master Kobayashi says,
there will be one that will be your equal. With a tragic past and a dark heart, she will be your equal in every way. But do not hate her, for she can change if you try to find the love within her, even though lost to herself. But that's a story for another day. For now, let the special training begin.
Jason and Master Kobayashi leave the room, leaving May behind with question marks over her head. As she says,
special training?
Elsewhere, Jason and Master Kobayashi arrive to a special room with large balls made of pillowcases tied to the ceiling, 8 padded hammers in all. Jason says,
this is the special training?
Yes, it is, Jason,
answered Master Kobayashi, and continues,
all you need to do is make it to the other end of the room without being hit by the moving obstacles.
Jason says,
But this is like so easy.
Is it?
Said Master Koboyoshi a second later. He places a blindfold on Jason. That's one sentence. Jason says,
I can't see. How could I avoid the obstacles now?
A fair question. You cannot rely on your eyes in this training, but rely on your sixth sense within you. Once mastered, it will never let you down,
replied Master Koboyoshi. Jason blindly walks toward the other side of the room as Master Koboyoshi starts the obstacles moving. Jason takes 2 steps and gets struck by the first padded hammer, and he goes flying into the wall. He gets up and says,
Master, I sense the danger, but I didn't know what to do.
Don't worry. As your training continues, you will. When you can master this course is the day you will be ready to face Deathstrike and win,
said Master Koboyoshi. 2 years later, Jason continues to train in the obstacle room. Blindfolded, he turns right to avoid padded hammer 1, then jumps back to avoid padded hammer 2. He spins left to avoid padded hammer 3, then gets hit by padded hammer 5, and goes flying through the room, hitting the wall. Jason stands up, removes the blindfold, and yells,
Damn! Still not good enough.
Easy, Jason. It's only been 2 years since you started that training. You've excelled in every part of your training, say 1. The sixth sense training. You fear what you cannot see, and it is affecting how you react,
said May. Jason says,
I know, but everything is taking so long.
I know how you feel,
said May. Jason yells,
How can you possibly know how I feel, huh? How could you know it's like to watch the man you idolize more than anything else in the world, the one you thought indestructible, die before your very eyes, and be helpless to stop it?
Hey! You act all big and bad. You come along with this bad boy attitude, obsessed with revenge, like you're the only one to lose a parent, like you're the only one to watch helplessly as the ones that gave you life lose theirs. Well, you're wrong. I know that pain all too well. I watched helplessly as my parents sacrificed themselves to save me after a random lightning strike started a fire in my house. At least you have a villain to fight, to exact revenge on, and maybe ease the pain of your lost,
said May, who tears up and continues.
That's something I don't have. A way to help with the pain. I deal with that pain every day. So suck it up and don't act like nobody understands you pain.
Jason says.
I mean, she could learn how to like wield lightning. She would have her hands redirected.
Oh yeah, why didn't she ever think of that?
I don't know. In this world, it seems possible, right?
It does. Sixth Sense, sorceresses.
Then there will be no more random lightning bolts.
Right.
They will all be purposeful.
Right.
I want to know how her parents like died because of this lightning bolt.
That's a good point. So she says the lightning strike.
Were they inside a house when it struck? So like it went through the house, or were they outside the house while she was inside it and it struck the?
What it says here is after a random lightning strike started a fire in my house.
Okay.
So I guess it was the fire.
So I think it struck maybe the top part of the house, and maybe it started a fire that way.
Yeah, it's ye olden times. This is 10,000 years before recorded history, so thatch roofs are implied.
Yeah, I mean, we could, get into all of the, physical logistics, flames, laws of thermodynamics and everything, heat rising and all of that. Right. Of course, locked rooms, closed rooms, it creates, a pressure differential. When one door opens, it might cause, a flashover or something, spreading from one room to another one and, just instantly broiling them.
Well, obviously, if this is 10,000 years before recorded history, that means that they probably have a polytheistic religion, which means that she just needs to kill the thunder god.
Oh, right.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Oh, Christopher C. Miller, I think we just came up with your sequel.
Yes.
Jason says,
May, I'm sorry I didn't know.
Whatever. Grandfather asked me to pick up supplies. Want to come with me?
Asked May. Jason says,
Sure, I'll come with you.
Later, in the town of Scorpion, May and Jason arrive outside the general store as they overhear 2 guys talking.
Did you hear?
Asked Guy 1. Guy 2 replies, What?
The grand champion is in our little town.
Said Guy 1. Guy 2 asks, Wait, are you saying that Deathstrike is visiting our little town? Jason perks up and asks,
Deathstrike?
Yeah, he's in the tavern right now.
said Guy 1. They leave as Jason reaches for his sword as May asks,
Jason, what are you doing?
This could be it.
said Jason, and he brings out his sword and continues.
This could be the chance I've been waiting for.
Jason, no, don't do it. You're not ready to face Deathstrike,
said May. Without replying, Jason runs off in the direction of the tavern. At the tavern, Jason arrives outside the tavern and says,
This is it. This is what I've been training for.
Jason walks into the tavern. Deathstrike and Chow sit at a table drinking. Chow raises his glass and says,
Thanks to your abilities and ruthlessness, I was able to conquer the area known as the Uncharted Kingdom. Now it is Chow's Kingdom.
Yes, Master!
said Deathstrike. Jason walks up to the table with fire in his eyes and says,
Deathstrike, remember me?
No! I can't say that I do! Who are you?
asked Deathstrike. Jason says,
You murdered my father.
You're gonna have to do better than that!
answered Deathstrike. Jason rips his shirt open to reveal his scar across his chest and says,
Does this jog your memory?
Ah, yes! The runt I taught a lesson to so many years ago!
said Deathstrike. Jason says,
Here to settle the score and avenge my parents.
Oh, please. Deathstrike, deal with this pest. I have better things to do than watch this,
said Chow. Chow taps his staff and a fire comes from the stone encircling him, and he vanishes. Deathstrike says,
Deal with the pest? Yes! Sounds like fun!
Deathstrike kicks the table at Jason, who dodges the table and swings his sword. Deathstrike blocks the attack and says,
Well, somebody has been training.
Yes, training every day since the day you butchered my father.
said Jason. Deathstrike says,
Pity will do no good.
Deathstrike kicks Jason, who goes flying through the air and lands on a table, smashing it and stunning Jason. Deathstrike walks over to Jason and says,
Say hello to your father for me when you see him in the land of the dead!
Deathstrike raises his sword up, about to strike.
Damn.
And that is the end of Chapter 2. Alright, welcome back. We have returned from our little musical interlude, and we're ready to discuss the chapter that we have just read, Chapter 2, Test of Courage. So, Nick, you're the guest. What did you think?
I thought it was good. I mean, it's a training montage, more or less. It feels kind of weird at times where he will begin training, and then like between pages 15 and 16, where he starts his training, and then it's 2 years later, and he's like kind of better. I feel like there's a little bit more. Like I would like to see him like develop. Like, how does he begin developing his sixth sense?
So
you know?
the fact that you bring up that question, last episode we had Tyler on. You know Tyler,
Yeah.
And he had a similar comment.
Okay.
Because what happens in chapter 1 is after he leaves Sandstorm, is he's seeking out Koboyoshi, but first he goes to Noblin, and Noblin teaches him a little bit, and then he goes to his Uncle Julian, and Uncle Julian like teaches him a little bit. Then he has to go to Koboyoshi, but along the way he meets this guy Nomad, and Nomad is kind of like instructing him in combat. But then he
Okay.
gets to Koboyoshi, and it's just this sequence of
training.
training montages, and it just continues in chapter 2.
I feel like there's this thing of him like I feel like he's training, but at the same time, it doesn't sound like there's much training. I would have liked to see him like develop his sixth sense or like unlock it. I don't know if it's like an unlocked ability for him that he has to like know how to do it, because at the end of at the end of page 15, it sounds like he's like, oh, I can sense it, so he has it, but like he doesn't do anything with it. And then the start of the next paragraph is him dodging three of the
There
four.
are five.
There are
at least.
five.
There's five, but
The fourth
Yeah.
is not mentioned.
The fourth is not
Fourth hammer is
mentioned.
So technically, he possibly dodged 4 out of 5 hammers, but it seems like 3 out of 4.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna cry foul on the part of the fifth wrecking ball of pillows. Obviously, there's cheating afoot here. He was anticipating the fourth one, and the fifth came out of fucking.
So what you're saying is that Mei Kobayashi totally cheated him out of
Plot twist.
Now that's a thought.
because she's here, which then opens up the question of, did she learn about secret trading? Because remember, at the end of page 15, she didn't know.
She had question marks above her head.
She had anime style question marks over her head, which I can only imagine seemed like those kind of like the puffy kind of little question mark things that you could do for like Microsoft Word.
Yeah, word art.
Word art. She kind of has those like just kind of popping up over her head. They kind of like move side to side. That's what it sounds like.
So yeah, she obviously learned about secret training at some point. Now whether or not she's sabotaging it, that's an interesting theory.
She wants him to
Because she didn't get it, obviously, if she hasn't heard of it.
Yeah.
And that's her grandfather. She's known him for a long time.
Grandfather
Her
was
whole life,
like,
you might say.
Yeah.
It seemed like the grandfather kind of also disappeared. Where did he go?
So this is something that's prevalent in the book, is that characters, when they're no longer needed, tend to disappear, and characters don't mention where they have gone.
Where they go.
Yes, at a point where you might want to know, and it might be helpful to know, because
So I'm the kind of person where I like to know, like, as soon as a character gets introduced, I'm like, I want to know like what they're doing now, because it seems like maybe it's not integral to the plot, to like Jason's story as the main character, but the fact that this character is just introduced, I'm like, I want to know about that guy. What's he doing?
Maybe he's off bathing in the oasis again.
I hope so. I really hope so.
He's just
looking for
insanely hygienic.
He's looking for the next person to see so that he could like, oh, you were looking at my you were looking at my granddaughter too, I see. I get that.
So while they're doing this, he's taking somebody else who's not as good as Jason, and he's just getting wrecked by the first pillow.
But see, now I'm like questioning this, because I'm trying to think back to how Master Koboyoshi was talking about his granddaughter, and he gives me like a very like Dragon Ball Z Master Roshi kind of vibe.
He's definitely a Master Roshi.
Master Roshi.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to be quite as perverse.
No.
Not as perverse, but the fact
But
that
back in his day,
back in my day, I was like,
he
oh,
wasn't always an
okay.
old man.
Okay, Master Koboyoshi, I see what you're doing.
He's wiser. The years have given him experiences that
We can only imagine.
He's like, and this is gonna reach our few Dragon Ball Super fans out there. He's like Master Roshi after he goes through his arc where he learns how to stop being perverted. Oh. Yeah, there you go. That's a Tournament of
Master
Power
Yoshi,
arc
but
drop for you.
After committing tax fraud.
Another thing I want to point out about the training is, this training is taking quite a long time. In last chapter, there were like 10 years where he was at, or 8 years maybe, where he was with Noblin and them, and then traveling, and now he has to spend 10 years here. I mean, Jason's gonna be like an old man by the time he's
gonna be
ready.
in his 30s. How old was he at the start when his father was killed?
he was 10 years old.
Okay, so he would be in his 30s.
Yeah.
If he stayed through the whole training process, because it was another 10 years of Kobayashi, but it looks like he's only done 2, which, unless it was like more than 2, because at least he had 2 with the Sixth Sense. I don't know
Right.
how long he had with like basic Kobayashi training.
But that's what's bizarre to me, is that it seems like in the last chapter, he took care of the physical training, and maybe Master Koboyoshi's training is meditation and accessing your chakras. But at this point, he still hasn't demonstrated that he's even gotten close to doing that. And there aren't any sequences that show him meditating or doing anything close to that.
Did he learn how to do magic? Like,
No.
because his mother is a sorceress. This is something I don't actually know because I wasn't here for the first chapter. But if we say like sorceress and witch and warlock and stuff like that, is that like magic, like high fantasy kind of like, oh, I can cast spells and stuff?
There's a lot of magic in this book, and it's interesting that you say that, because his mother was a sorceress. He might have latent magic within him, but so far I think he doesn't know how to use magic because his mother died almost as soon as they got to that place. Okay. So from what I remember,
Yeah.
He
It
just
was pretty
used a
quick.
sword.
Sure. So
So does he actually know how to use the sword? Because he was trained in crossbow, right?
right, he highlighted crossbow training, which still blows my mind that he has yet to use a crossbow after training so long in crossbow training. Maybe because the sword is a family heirloom, he can naturally use it.
Can he? Can he, though?
This Deathstrike situation has me on edge. Honestly, it's worth the chapter being so short to have that cliffhanger. And it's special because it's so early in the story.
Right.
So that's another question I have. The villagers talk about Deathstrike.
Guy
being
1 and Guy 2.
Guy 1 and Guy 2, traditional fan favorite characters. Guy 1 and Guy 2.
Yes.
Talk about him being the grand champion. Was he grand champion before he killed Jason's father?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that like, so is grand champion like the only thing I can think of for grand champion, and this just shows what I like to do. But that reminds me from Oblivion with the arena with the grand champion. Is that kind of similar to this situation, or is this more of a grand champion is like just a high title that you can get for being just strong?
He's grand champion because he kills each and every single person who he fights.
Okay.
So I guess
Is it just like an organized, I guess? Is it just he can go fight people whoever he wants?
It's strangely organized because we learn that Jason's father is the local champion. Yeah. So they have divisions. They have, and surprisingly, they have local championships and national championships. So the body of this blood sport is organized in some way. Okay. So I'm sure there was a lot of paperwork to be filed for our dear friend Deathstrike to go to Sandstorm to partake in this cage match. You can only imagine, and he does discuss there is betting on this, so there is this element of like MMA and that sort of thing.
and it's all above the table too.
It is. It's very legal, and
Just not with this Chow guy.
and what's so interesting too is, and it speaks to the kind of lawlessness that Deathstrike represents, is that people assume that you don't kill someone during those death matches. So. Yeah,
He does it all the time, though, apparently.
yes. And he's about to kill not even in the arena, like just because somebody's bothering him.
To be fair, and I'm not taking Deathstrike's side in this.
Please don't. Please watch what you say.
He sounds like a murderer here, so I don't want to take his side. But Jason did try to attack him in a bar.
That is true.
So if I was a rampaging killer who uses a blood sport system to just murder people, I probably would be very annoyed that this random kid comes up to me and says, "Do you remember me? You killed my dad."
Yeah, exposing him bodily in front of you.
I did like the fact that Deathstrike is like, "Oh, that doesn't help. I've killed a lot of dads. I've killed a lot of dads. That doesn't help."
I've ruined many families' lives. You're gonna have to refresh my memory, son.
I like those.
Should call him
like,
Dad Strike.
Dad strike.
Deathstrike.
Dad strike.
That's like your traditional like bad villain kind of like evil enemy rival kind of thing. It's like, "Oh, I've killed a lot of dads."
It's like
so that
the
doesn't help.
Street Fighter movie.
Yeah.
The day that Bison graced your village
was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
It was only Tuesday.
Oh, I killed your father. Which one? Oh, I cut your chest. I remember. I got a hoagie. I asked for no onions.
He's like, remember the scar? He's like, oh yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
I don't remember your father, but I remember that scar.
Yeah, he has like almost an artistic view of the scars he's left on bodies. He recognizes that very easily.
He's a high artist.
Yes. Killing is an art form if you think about it. I wanted to bring up a couple of things. Sure. I like Jason's sort of frustration with Master Koboyoshi not being forward with him.
Oh yeah.
When Master Kobayashi says, "Your father was the great champion of the arena, and your mother was named June, correct?" Asks Master Kobayashi, and Jason's like, "Yes." Again, what special training? Like, get on with it, old man. Jesus.
Your mother was named June, correct? I would almost be like, yeah, like how do you know that? And then also like, why do you care?
Kobayoshi's
question.
just dropping all of these super vague hints.
Oh yeah.
What does my mother have to do with special training? Do I have to go dig her up, you sick fuck?
And your uncle's named Julian, correct?
Yes.
Hello
Your blood
there.
type is O, correct?
You're a Capricorn.
Yeah, so that I wanted to point out. There is a point on page 15, I think. Yeah, Master Kobayashi goes on a rant that I really want to know what that is even supposed to mean.
Do you mean the Sixth Sense one, or the one where he talks about there being an equal?
There's an equal.
Yeah.
He brings this up, and then it's like, oh, anyway,
It's foreshadowing, but not for this book.
not for this book.
I feel like though that it's foreshadowing, but it sounds like Kobayashi might die now because he's bringing this up. He's like, oh, but I don't have to tell you about this right now. I feel like he's gonna die, and then he's gonna be like, oh wait, I'm dying, but let me tell you about this other person.
Right.
I just love that this character trait of his that he drops super vague things, and nobody is here for it.
Nobody. Everyone's so sarcastic and with it that they just can't deal with mysticism.
I feel like though that like this whole thing of that but do here it is. Yeah, but do not hate her, for she can change if you try to find the love within her, even thought lost to herself. It's like, is it trying to set up like a romance here is it like love, or is it like self-friendly love? Like,
the way it begins, it implies that. I think you're right. I think everyone will be surprised as to where that goes.
I just want to see intense, angry.
Because right now
angry lady. Yeah, because
we think May's the love
Yeah.
interest.
I mean, after all, Jason did spy on her for their first introduction, and then he had traditional. Traditional anime nosebleed.
Yeah.
Can't
So
ignore that.
that's actually something I wanted to bring up, which is that in this chapter we really get a ramping up of the anime stuff, which you didn't really get to experience, Nick, in the last chapter. But before it was more just kind of traditional fantasy with some comedy elements. But now it's straight up, it's a shonen anime.
Yeah. Then that also brings up the fact of like. If you try to find the love within her, even thought lost to herself, that sounds like it's like even more traditional anime, because that sounds like it's kind of create like a love triangle kind of anime.
Yeah.
Between.
I wonder if Jason's gonna have a harem.
Oh no.
I wonder. I wonder.
But my question related to that was, I was wondering, you fellas, what kind of anime tropes you are maybe predicting we'll see, or you might hope to see in this story.
I fully expect there to be, after that first nosebleed looking at boob situation, I fully expect to see another one or two of those, because that just seems to be a continuing trope. Probably some weird instance of May, like, they go to like an inn or something, and then he opens up the door and she's changing again, and then she gets really upset at him. I feel like that's going to be another trope, because that just seems to be how this is going so far. He spied on her, he meets her for the first time, and he immediately looks at her boobs, and I feel like that's just the logical progression.
Wow. Are you sure you didn't read ahead? It's pretty close. I mean, it's not It's not exactly as you're describing.
I just know my anime tropes. So I just know the general progression of anime tropes. I want to see him power up now also. Because he just got beaten by Deathstrike. I keep saying Deathstroke. But he got beaten by Deathstrike. And then it sounds like he's gonna like immediately have like one of those deep, like he holds it in himself because he's about to die, and then his father comes to him and he's like, son, I'm dead, but also fight on, avenge. Don't always focus on revenge, focus on improving yourself, or that traditional kind of like Mufasa kind of situation.
Yeah. Naruto's dad coming back.
Exactly, having a heart-to-heart, and then he goes, and then he fights Deathstrike to a standstill or something. Because I can't imagine that he's gonna beat Deathstrike in one chapter.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3, he beats Deathstrike. I don't know. Maybe he does, but I want Deathstrike to last longer as a villain. I want him to build up more of a, like, you beat me once. You fought me to a standstill once. Now I want to see you, like, fully beat me or something. Or maybe I just played too many Fire Emblem games, and so therefore I like seeing the fact of like the arch rival villain who's killed your father, like is going ahead and saying, I want you to actually be strong and try to kick my ass.
No, that's a good trope to look out for. My one that I really want to see is that Jason goes through a dream sequence near the end of this arc and has flashing images, and we get to see a black hole appear, and
Master Koboyoshi just comes out of it.
Master Koboyoshi comes out of it. There's 80s synth music playing in the background. I know that's going to be hard for him to write out, but I have a feeling that it's coming.
Life has many doors, Jason.
Yes. Yeah, so, like, coming from, and he's saying, we're hearing quotes from previously in the chapter being echoed out. That's one trope I'm looking forward to. And the other one that I'm looking forward to, I guess I would agree, I want to see charging up, but for a whole chapter between two people, because that would be reflective almost entirely of what I love about anime, is that you just have to watch these people get ready to fight one another and sit with it for a while.
Well, see, now I'm also thinking of, because we brought up the harem possibility.
Yeah.
I want to see him create like a cast of like kooky characters that come together with them. Each character, maybe not all female, maybe there's a few guys, but like they all have a general niche. Like Mei is
Tsundere, basically.
She's tsundere, but she's also like kind of, I guess you could say, the friend. Like the old friend one, because
the childhood friend,
kind of sort of. They're not like actually childhood friends, but like they're trading friends. So I don't know if you could say that's the friend one. And then we introduce like more characters. Like there's like the deep, like, honorable fighter one, or basically I'm just asking for a One Piece kind of cast.
I think that's a good thing to look out for. May's interesting because she's tsundere, but she showed her cards pretty early. Her breakdown of like, hey, my parents both died in an accident, dude. Calm your jets. And it deflated Jason so much.
I don't mean to be mean to Mei, but it just seemed a little weird, her comparison of, this man has murdered my father and he's just kind of getting away with it. And then hers is a freak of nature accident. A freak of nature accident set fire to my house and burned my family alive.
Yeah.
And it's like, and don't you know how I feel because of it? And I'm like, that's awful that happened to you. But however, I don't think you can compare that to the murderer.
Can you actually go back to the description of Jason's dad's death?
Yeah. Let me
because
find it.
No, you're absolutely spot on. There's a difference between an accident made my parents die,
made by nature,
as opposed to, if you can't find it, I think there's like buckets of blood.
Okay, yeah, ready? Here we go. Deathstrike says,
Now to finish my victory and make my master happy.
With that, he slices off Gerald's head. The head flies across the arena and lands in the mud. Buckets of blood rushes from his decapitated body as it too succumbs to gravity.
I feel like there's a difference between brutal killing from like Mortal Kombat almost and lightning that strikes my house and turns it into a fire. Like, it's awful that happened to your parents, May. But I don't know if you can compare that as like
Yeah,
I know how
yeah.
to, like, unless she's trying. I know how it feels to lose your parents, but like.
Well, and that kind of betrays her philosophy, right? She believes that life is just horrible and you need to nut up. But Jason sees one problem in his whole life as being this guy, and as soon as as soon as he's over, then I will have avenged the bad thing that happened to me. So that might be behind why she doesn't view it the same way.
That's possible.
Character psychology.
I feel like I'm a little confused then because the way it was going, honestly, until she said something about her grandfather, I was like, oh, okay, Master Koboyoshi is in fact her grandfather. I thought for a second that it meant that her parents died, and then she was just kind of adopted by Koboyoshi as like a dad.
He's the real OG.
The real OG.
Original grandfather.
Yes. But like,
Logical.
I did think that argument that they had was actually reasonably effective. It was kind of emotionally charged and nice, and then they both just scoff it off immediately.
Let's go somewhere.
Let's go to.
All right, you want to go run some errands? Yeah, sure. Okay.
Well, why not? I mean, that's just you got it. That's just something you got to do sometimes. You got to just go ahead and be like, oh, we have this emotional charge argument. Let's go do something. Let's get just air out the situation. Maybe they probably walk. So let's just assume that they just spend some time talking about it, get their feelings out of the way, and then they get there, and then Jason's immediately like, I gotta kill him. Like he just goes from like May telling him, you need to have some time to train, I know how you feel, and he's just like, you're right. But as soon as he hears death strikes in the area, he's like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, he has levels. He's levels.
He's got like a range of emotions. That
But
he feels.
chronologically, that brings us to what I believe is one of the key scenes of this chapter, when May and Jason arrive at the town, and they do overhear this conversation between Guy 1 and Guy 2.
Crucial characters.
Vital.
Favorite.
And I think we have to talk about these characters.
Yes,
I think.
absolutely.
I mean, the plot, make it or break it,
Hinges on
them. Like, if they had not had this convenient conversation, Jason would have never known. They would have gone about their errands. They would have picked up their stuff and never known that Deathstrike was in town. So these are critical characters, and I want us to just unpack them a little bit. And I teach literature for like college sophomores, and we do exercises in close reading where you take a small amount of text, but you try to explicate what's there, find the hidden depths that are there. And I really want us to go around the table and do that for Guy 1 and 2, their short scene here. So in the town of Scorpion, May and Jason arrive outside the general store as they overhear two guys talking.
Did you hear?
Asked Guy 1. Guy 2 replies, "What?"
The grand champion is in our little town.
Said Guy 1. Guy 2 asks, "Wait, are you saying that Deathstrike is visiting our little town?" Jason perks up and asks,
Deathstrike?
Yeah, he's in the tavern right now.
all right, and that is the end of their...
That
Their
carries
appearance.
so much weight. I felt my heart kind of sink in a little bit because I realized that the disbelief. I want to talk first about the disbelief from Guy 2 that this could be happening. And obviously, Deathstrike is notorious.
Yeah, I mean, Guy 2 is very incredulous from what we learn about him. Guy 1 and Guy 2, I think we can assume they're very close. I mean, they're outside the general store, so either they're there for some reason, they shop together maybe.
Right.
They both have the name of Guy.
They both have the name of Guy, but different last names.
Oh yeah. Well, see, the thing that's getting to me here, I feel like Guy 1 is probably not the best person. Probably like maybe a little bit of a chaotic neutral kind of character here, because it says May and Jason arrive outside the general store as they hear two guys talking, and that makes it sound like all of a sudden they arrive outside that general store, and Guy 1, fully out like an omniscient god, suddenly goes ahead and says, "Oh yeah, by the way, Death Strikes around here. Jason's gonna love this. We don't know.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years also, so maybe Jason like goes to this area. I mean, it's Scorpion, so it's his hometown, right?
This is not his hometown,
It's not
I
his
believe.
hometown,
Okay.
but it is a town that they're close to.
So it's a town
right
they're
now.
close to. So it sounds like if he's been there for at least 2 years
Yeah.
with May and Master Kobayashi, that it must mean that maybe the townspeople know him a little bit. I mean, they have to shop at the general store other times. So maybe Guy 1 and 2, they know, or at least Guy 1 knows that Jason wants to trade to avenge his father's death of Deathstrike. So he's like, "Hey Jason, by the way, Jason's coming over. Let's talk about Deathstrike in the tavern."
So you're saying not only is he a gossip, but he's an instigator.
Oh, definitely.
Wow, I would have never thought of it that way.
And I'm trying to figure out how to read Guy 2 then, because Guy 2 we could maybe assume that he's in on it a little bit. Or, I mean, again, going back to the incredulity of it, when Guy 1 asks, "Did you hear?" Guy 2 says, "What?" Like, he has no clue what this news could possibly be.
So it's almost like Guy 1 is just using Guy 2.
I think maybe. I think that is a possibility. And when we get down after Guy 1 in this kind of roundabout way says the grand champion is in our little town. He's being a little coy there, you know?
Right.
He's playing with him. He's messing with him somehow. And then Guy 2 asks, "Wait, are you saying that Deathstrike is visiting our little town?" So again, he seems oblivious. He seems, he's getting taken in on this ruse as much as anyone.
It also shows that right after Jason perks up and asks Deathstrike, and then immediately after Guy 1 said, "Yeah, he's in the tavern." He couldn't have said, he's just in the town. I don't know where he is, but he's like, he's in the tavern right over there.
Yeah, that's suspicious. He knows
isn't, like,
exactly where he is.
He isn't like pointing out. He's sitting at table number 5. He and this other guy, they're getting drinks right now. You better, They ordered the fish.
I want to point out something else though. This may be a little bit outside of the main dynamic that we're talking about here, but it's interesting to me that he brings up Deathstrike, who has been doing horrible things for a long time. But Lin Chao, I'm sure, is in the news because he just conquered an entire country and named it after himself. So I'm wondering if maybe there's a reason he mentions Deathstrike specifically, and it could be that he knows Jason gets angry at hearing Deathstrike and would be more interested in Deathstrike.
Now I'm just interested in this like funny like little moments where Jason just goes into town sometimes and someone's just, "Have you heard that Deathstrike just won a new fight?" And Jason's just like, "Deathstrike!" and he just punches something and it just punches a hole through a wooden building.
This is just a common occurrence.
Everyone's just like, "Jason, look, what the heck, dude?" He's Deathstrike.
Well, and that I think of like small anime moments with that too, where the next frame is his hand in the air and that person missing who's standing next to him who brought up Deathstrike, not showing him getting angry, just a quick like bam. And
Well, see, that just means it has to be even more anime because they clearly know that Jason, as the main character, has a feud going. So they're like, "We're gonna mention him." He's got like, "Oh."
I don't want to cut off our analysis of this scene if you wanted to say anything else about Guy 1 and Guy 2's situation.
But one thing
I think there's so much to unpack here. I mean, we could go on for days about this. We could write a whole thesis about them.
Well, one thing I would like to say is that it says Jason perks up, and I know it's not implied or it's not stated, but I can almost imagine that because May had like question marks appear above her head, that Jason has just a little exclamation point that pops up over his head when he hears that Deathstrike's in town. He just gets his little exclamation point, like a little word art.
Absolutely, yeah. And his eyes go into ovals and are all white and lose their pupils. Yeah, absolutely.
Makes a little O with his mouth. He's like,
Yeah, all of his facial features shrink a little bit on his face.
his friend jump into a little tiny thing.
Yeah. And I guess that's what I wanted to get into is I appreciate this world so much because obviously, as the narrative shows, Lin Chao is committing he's declared a war on a country and taken it over. There is a large scale fantasy world happening outside of this little world.
I want to interrupt you for a second, not to
Please
be mean,
do.
but he not only declared on a country that and took it over and named it after himself. He declared war on a kingdom that it sounds like no one had any idea about. Because he says, I was able to conquer the area known as the Uncharted Kingdom, and taking in all that I know about fantasy, like, you know, like uncharted territories and what else from like the Star Wars expanded universe. They're called that because no one goes into those areas. Like they aren't charted. And, you know, I can pull this as like a history thing that he goes in there and people like the Romans and people of Europe didn't know that Britain existed. Like they thought that was all made up. So the fact that Julius Caesar goes over there and he gets his ass kicked, but he comes back later and they're like, oh man, he did something that no one else could do. So that sounds like an Uncharted Kingdom kind of situation. Right. No one knows what's in this kingdom.
And nobody's talking about it because, the fact that it's Uncharted makes it a decidedly unimpressive feat.
It's either unimpressive or it's so impressive that everyone's like, wow, that's cool that he conquered a kingdom that no one knew even existed. Or like he had a loose idea that it existed.
Yeah, and so he's not even evil to them. He's not a danger. He's a Julius Caesar coming back from Gaul and bringing back deer and that sort of
exactly. He like conquered this territory that no one even knew existed. And he names it after himself, which I mean, like, okay, that's a little egotistical, but at the same time, he conquered a place called the Uncharted Kingdom. I feel like
there's an interesting world of international relations going on outside, but this book gives us the focus in on these relationships where people have question marks over their heads.
Yeah, I imagine that, you know, when the other books come out in the series, I feel like there may be these breadcrumbs along the way. Like, these sorts of conversations will take place where you'll hear this person has conquered this kingdom, or these two nations are now at war.
So, tell me, where is this taking place? Exactly, like geopolitically speaking, are we still on Earth, or is this like
this is the Earth? This is the Earth.
So
yes,
this is the Earth. It's 10,000 years in the past.
Okay.
And
wait, is it 10,000 years in the past or 10,000 years before recorded history?
No, you're right. 10,000 years before recorded history.
Okay, so but the continents are more or less the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the continents are more or less the same, so where are they? Like
right now, they're in the Middle East, and we're not sure what.
Well, the Middle East is a region. It's like spanning continental region.
Yeah.
But my question is just the fact that Koboyoshi is at least an East Asian, like an Asian last name, and so is Mei. It's I can't say it's like fully just Japanese. It could be, you know, it could be Korean or one of those the areas around there. But well, of course, Japan wouldn't exist at this time. It would be a bunch of other things.
And that's the issue, right?
But I bring this up because if they're in the Middle East, how long? It sounds like Master Koboyoshi and Mei, and I guess Mei's parents, have been here for a while. They've set down roots, or they did, because then the lightning struck the house and turned it to cinders. But it sounds. Beautiful house, wonderful trees, but they were burned down, so it sounds like they set up roots. So they migrated from what I can only assume is Japan all the way over to the Middle East, but they can all understand each other, which it creates this like weird like Tower of Babel situation where we can all
I mean, we could be watching that story taking place in real time.
Because you have Master Koboyoshi, Lin Chao, Jason Warlock, all of these guys, I guess Mei Koboyoshi, what was Guy 1 and Guy 2, very famous characters. And I guess also, what was the mother's name again? June Warlock. These are all, it's very, very, like different names for different people from a lot of different groups.
Sure. I think what's going on here.
So I just have to ask that, like, do they all like speak the same? Like, do they all share a language?
They speak English.
Well, they all speak English. Yeah. But would that mean then that they like, you know, there is a single English language, or I guess whatever kind of language they're actually speaking? or is it just that they're all hanging out with each other for so long that they're able to learn a similar language? And I mean, I'm only here for chapter 2, so I don't know if maybe Lin Chao is actually speaking like some kind of language that
Chownese.
What?
Chownese.
Chownese. Well, now he's speaking Chownese. He has the kingdom of Chow.
Right. Okay. So now he can speak.
He can now speak Chownese. But he's speaking this, and I don't know. Maybe Jason's coming in. He's like, I don't know what that guy just said. I can't speak his language.
You've introduced an important issue wherein, and we had to grapple with this last time, that the countries we know of today and the different ethnicities that exist still somehow apply to a world 10,000 years before recorded history, and with countries that are fictional.
Yeah, and also this is before like various people groups, so you don't have the Angles and the Saxons coming into England and then mixing William the Conqueror conquering them and mixing French and English together, and you don't have like Latin as like the core base, or like the Germanic and Romantic languages, and that's all in Europe. You don't have the building of like, well, I guess you could call it now modern Japanese and modern Chinese, or like Mandarin Chinese. You don't have the buildup of like all the different languages of the world, because then of course you have to talk about like the Phoenician alphabet and hieroglyphic.
Well, that's in chapter 8. Yeah. It's actually he says cameo appearance by the Phoenicians.
By the Phoenicians and the early Greeks, and then the Greeks just kind of come in and they say, "Hey, Trojan War, am I right?"
Jason joins the Phoenicians and he tells them all about what he learned from Noblin about 20th century.
Oh yeah, you missed that as well. The character Noblin, she can see through all of time and space.
Did you teach him about like guns and stuff? Is that what
everything?
Everything.
The trick is that she has pop culture references from our day that she dishes out, like
Charlie Sheen being featured in Hot Shots Part D.
What about Sword Art Online?
Oh yeah.
She knows about it. She hasn't brought it up.
She knows all about everything there is to know about our media that we consume.
Does that mean she knows memes?
She knows memes, certainly. And Jason ostensibly knows a lot too, because she taught them to him.
For like 8 years.
I'm concerned that he spent all this time with Master Koboyoshi and has forgotten.
Oh.
Because that doesn't seem to be Master Kobayoshi's forte.
I'm asking like very specific stuff that I don't know. Maybe there's going to be like a like an author compendium, kind of like how Tolkien has the Silmarillion.
Yeah, well, Chris has been giving us like all of this material. Yes, Alex and I, he's been giving us all of this background information that's been actually quite fascinating to look through.
Yes.
There's, obviously a lot that we're still missing, but there are gods, right?
There are. We even in the first chapter we all heard last time that his father prayed to his god, so that maybe assumes that there are different types of religions, and there's a monotheism, in the Middle East even at that time.
Okay, but that means that there could be a thunder god.
There could be a thunder god that can get revenge on.
Get revenge on for killing her family.
For killing her family.
That seems like the best way forward, honestly. But this book, of course, subverts your expectations
at every step.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a reading.
Time gets bent a lot in this series in different ways. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if later on we figured out that Master Koboyoshi is involved in a little bit of that.
What if Master Koboyoshi is in fact just a god?
He could be a god.
And
I wouldn't deny that.
He is a benevolent god training Jason to fight. Then, of course, that turns into an entirely different question of, does that mean that May is part god? What kind of situation is that? Then, of course, you enter like Japanese mythology and a bunch of stuff that I could go into, but I don't feel like doing it because I barely understand mythology in and of itself.
I think one thing that we should do, and maybe we can close out soon, but I think we should like run the numbers on this and figure out when this is taking place.
Sure.
So when do we know that like recorded history basically began.
It depends on what you mean by recorded.
Yeah.
I'm guessing if we're saying a writing system.
Technically, recorded history, what we teach in the United States education system, is that history begins as soon as writing begins.
So what year would that put us at, approximately?
The Sumerians started writing. This may be too far back, but my guess is at least 4000 BC. Let me look it up real quick.
I would look that up. 4500 BCE.
Oh,
Okay, so we're going 10,000 years before that.
it is 14,500
BC.
Yeah,
So
we assume that human activity began much earlier.
Right.
They had a hunter-gatherer society to an agrarian one prior to about 5000 BCE. But I assume, I believe we're kind of spitballing around that region, that we're like Sumeria is somewhere between 5,000 and 4,500 for the first early Sumerian city-states, maybe early civilization towns and stuff like that.
Right, and by going back so far, we're well within the hunter-gatherer stage of human civilization. But in the world of Jason Warlock, that actually exists alongside, I'm assuming, actual kingdoms and organizations and writing systems that he's implying were lost to time. Mm-hmm. So all we need, right, and how we might be able to access documents or artifacts that talk about this history besides this book that carries that historical pressure.
Which is
there are some really unplumbed depths here we had never considered before.
And I want to add 6 pages.
In 6 pages.
6 pages. We have torn this thing up.
Yeah, I bet nobody who started listening today thought they were getting a history podcast.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else either of you wanted to note from the chapter we read today? I think we covered a lot.
We covered a lot of ground. I think I've said all I needed to say.
I think one last thing. I know I talk a lot. One last thing is that the land of the dead at the way end.
Oh yeah.
Is that like an actual place?
This is the first time it's mentioned.
Okay. I don't know if he's just kind of being like, haha, well, I'm sending you to like death, or if he's like actually saying that when you die, you're gonna go to the land of the dead.
They do have a separate word for hell, though, because Master Koboyoshi, of all people, tells Jason that his training will be hell.
That's true. So they know that hell exists, apparently.
I think it might be a unique situation wherein in the American translation of Yu-Gi-Oh, Yugi condemns people to the Shadow Realm instead. It would be he's basically saying in the Japanese version, "I'm killing you doing this," but in the American version, they insinuate that he's sending them to somewhere called the Shadow Realm. And it's somewhere where you stay. It's similar to Purgatory, I'm sure, and maybe the land of the
evokes
dead.
Your absolute worst fears and all of that. You're punished based on the way you lived your life.
Exactly, yeah.
Very Allegorian.
So I feel like Jason's hell would be very, or Jason's land of the dead would just be filled with training against. Be training, but specifically, it's more training, but there's a key but here. It's training specifically with hammer number 5, which has been the only hammer that looks like to kick his ass constantly. Because it says it's 2 years, and I have to imagine that Jason has lost the hammer number 5 multiple times. There might be a blood feud going there now.
Well, I don't think we're going to end on a better note than that. Yeah. So thank you all for listening. This, I think, has been a great episode. We've really enjoyed having you on, Nick.
Thank you.
You added a neat historical perspective we would have never thought of.
Yes, you've added so much to this world that needs people to love the world and explain more of what they believe exists in it, because it just demands that creativity.
If you can pull yourself into the world, then it's a little bit easier to. Or maybe not easier is the right word, but it gets you more invested then, because now you're like, oh man, look how this connected to all this other stuff that I'm looking at. And
That's
then,
the
you know,
excitement of
Jason-
literature.
Exactly.
And with that, we're going to say goodbye.
Au revoir.
Read a Spinner Radio. Read a Spinner Radio.